Imagine it's 2:30 in the morning and you're trying to get some sleep and wham! The neighbor's rooftop karaoke system erupts with a power ballad so loud it can wake up Ho Chi Minh City. You stumble to the balcony, blurry-eyed, and then you see Grandma, Uncle Ba, and 3 toddlers harmonizing like it's New Year's Eve. Noise ordinance? What ordinance? Meanwhile, in the US, 1911 noise complaint, and then the entire block becomes a courtroom drama. That is why Vietnamese family rules hit differently. Sometimes literally in the eardrum. My name is Ken Duong, California licensed immigration and international business attorney, having lived in the United States for 30 years and in Vietnam for over a decade. I have seen both systems collide like 2 karaoke systems on max volume. And today I'm counting down the 9 family rules in Vietnamese culture that may make Americans raise an eyebrow or call a lawyer. And when we say rules, we don't mean statutes that you can take off of a government website. No. We mean the unwritten, sometimes unspoken codes that rule a Vietnamese household that you may not even know existed. In other words, the Vietnamese culture that most families observe in Vietnam. They are not written in law books, but break them and you will face a harsher court. Your own relatives. So let's get started, but quietly, so we do not disturb the karaoke concert next door. In Vietnam, the front door is not just a boundary, it's a motion detector. The second that you twist that knob, a voice shoots from the living room. Con về rồi hả? Con ăn chưa? Con đi đâu? Which translates to, are you home already? Did you eat yet? Where did you go? Your alibi, meal status, and gossip report due immediately. In the US, you'll probably toss to the living room a hey, I'm back, and maybe answer 1 or 2 softball questions. Everything's okay? Are you hungry? And then everybody goes back to the Netflix tabs. In Vietnam, being nosy is love. In America, privacy is trust. Same intention, different volume setting. And that nightly interrogation is not a one-off. It really sticks around because in many Vietnamese families, you never really move out, you just actually rotate bedrooms. And that brings me to rule number 2. Living with family until and after marriage. In Vietnam, moving out before marriage is sometimes considered, how do I say this politely? Financially reckless, socially suspicious, and sometimes even unfilial. Sons stay, daughters stay, even new spouses stay. Sometimes the only thing that moves out is the dog so that they can make more room for the in-laws. Urban millennials are pushing for their own studios, but national study shows that 70% of young Vietnamese are still bunking at hotel their mom and dad until they say I do. Even in the big cities, the numbers are 50 to 60% that they will stay at home before they get married. And even brides move into their husbands' houses after they get married, thus making the mother-in-law get promoted to roommate. We should pray for her. So why stick around? First, Saigon real estate has hovered over 20 times the annual salary. Splitting rent is the only cardio that wallets get. Second, Confucian culture says that moving out is just like moving away from your duties to your mom and dad. And third, living under that roof quietly guarantees you a slice of it when the will is written. In the US, about 18% share multi-generational homes. That is due more to economics than tradition. Americans call it failure to launch. Vietnamese call it being a decent child. Same phrase, totally different vibe. When 3 generations share the same roof, caring for elders is not an option. It's actually rule number 3. Vietnamese proverb, an old person in the home is a treasure. Translation, you don't dump treasure in a facility. In Vietnam, suggesting a nursing home is like selling grandma on eBay. Children are morally and socially obligated to house, feed, and fuss over aging parents. Add the rising longevity and you have these numbers. By 2050, seniors will account for 25% of the Vietnamese population, and yet they only have a few hundred nursing homes. With Vietnam sprinting towards age society status by 2036, startups are launching luxury retirement centers. But when you ask most elders, they'll say, "Why pay strangers to take care of me when I got ungrateful kids right here?" Actually, a 2021 survey shows that 90% of elders prefer to have home care, build extra bedrooms, rotate caretaking shifts, and treat grandma like a CEO emeritus. But family devotion is not just about the warm fuzzies. It's legally reinforced. The Vietnam law of 2012 on the elderly requires that adult children support their parents financially and emotionally. Violators can face administrative penalties. Imagine getting a ticket for insufficient hugs. And here's the kicker. Barely 1/3 of Vietnamese seniors draw a formal pension. So family isn't just an emotional safety net. It's the only stitch on the family quilt. Compare that with America's emphasis for independence. Seniors often choose assisted living for autonomy. In the US, nearly 1 million seniors live in nursing facilities, and the system is expected, even though the fees are brutal. So while American ads sell golden years independence, Vietnamese families treat independence like abandonment. By the way, taking care of parents is easier if you hold the right passport. And if you are Vietnamese descent and you want rights to property, inheritance, and yes, the family altar, then our firm can vet through your Vietnamese citizenship and handle the paperwork from A to Z. Yes, if you are still living in the home with grandma in charge, guess who decides on when you come back from that Friday night hangout? Yes, rule number 4. Vietnamese parents never retire from parenting. They just upgrade the software. Want to crash at a friend's place? Fill out the triplicate permission form, aka ask mom, dad, grandma, and the family group chat. Daughters face stricter controls. No taxis alone, no male friends after dinner, and don't even think about doing a motorbike road trip, unless it's to a pagoda. Sure, the motive is safety, but the execution is helicopter parenting on rocket fuel. As long as you're under their roof, even rent-free, obedience remains the unwritten lease agreement. You may think that control stops at the bedroom door. Spoiler, it does not. But before we get too personal, numbers do not lie. 80% of you are belting along like a karaoke shower, but not subscribed. That is like ordering a bowl of pho and leaving the beef. Unthinkable. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and upgrade from a tourist to a local. Good, you're subscribed. So now let's tiptoe to the loudest unspoken rule. Asking any Vietnamese teenager how they learn about puberty, odds are it's not the talk. Sexual education, dating, and hugging your siblings after grade school? Shh. A 2021 UNICEF survey found that 59% of Vietnamese high schoolers attributed their friends or the internet as their primary source of sexual education. Only 6% of them learned from their parents. Conversely, in the US, 76% of teenagers had a parent-led conversation about sexuality by the age of 17. Modesty is not just cultural, it is spatial. You would not see dad strolling from the shower to the bedroom in a towel. He's probably wearing a full tracksuit and slippers. American sitcoms have normalized the towel wearing in the hallways, but try that in Vietnam, grandma will spray holy water. Yet, the silence has cracks. Urban pharmacies are selling more contraceptives every year, and TikTok creators are tackling consent with bite-sized skits. So the country is balancing between Confucian taboo and Gen Z #rebellion. So secure your seatbelts as a conversation is turning up the mic. Speaking of mic levels, you definitely want the door to slam when the volume gets too high. But wait, the doors here are merely decorations.
Knocking, decorative. Locked doors, suspicious. In Vietnam, the concept of my room, my rules loses to my house, my rules. Siblings share beds, closets, and sometimes your deepest secrets. Parents stroll in unannounced, not to invade your privacy, but to deliver sliced mangoes and unsolicited life plans. Think of a Vietnamese home as a WhatsApp group chat. Everyone knows everything, even at 2 a.m. But leaving the group chat is not an option. In the US, knock first or get sued for emotional distress. Kidding, mostly. Non-stop togetherness goes into overdrive when everyone's banking on a son to carry on the surname. Enter rule number 7.
Despite modern legislation, families still quietly pray for sons. They are expected to carry the surname, inherit the ancestral altar, and presumably rescue the bloodline from oblivion. Daughters love dearly, but assume to marry out. No sons, no legacy. The mantra has consequences. Vietnam's sex ratio is 112 boys to 100 girls, and that's way above nature's ratio of 104 boys to 106 girls. Couple that with a national fertility rate of 1.91 and a shocking 1.32 in Ho Chi Minh City, and you have a ticking demographic time bomb. If that shrinking population sounds scary, we made a video about Vietnam's birth rate crisis in another episode. You can click on the right-hand banner to watch that video. Demographers warn of a bachelor bomb by 2035, whereby there will be an excess of 1.5 million men unable to find partners. China is already facing this reality, and Vietnam is drafting the sequel. Yet, change is brewing. Ho Chi Minh City's Department of Population runs billboards that say, "Con gái cũng tiếp nối gia đình," which means daughters continue families too. American parents are more worried about sports scholarships than lineage. The American fertility rate slid to 1.62 in 2024 with no gender distortion. People celebrate healthy babies, period. Traditions may run deep, but when those deep traditions give you a headache, the Vietnamese turn to one remedy. And that brings us to rule number 8. Headache, stomach, existential crisis, you guessed it, dầu gió. This menthol eucalyptus oil is Vietnam's Swiss Army remedy. Every Vietnamese household has at least one of these menthol bottles within arm's reach. Pharmacists report that one Vietnamese family can go through a bottle within 1 month, making it the unofficial national cologne. Visitors either fall in love or faint. Americans pop ibuprofen like Tic Tac. In fact, 16 billion tablets annually. Side effects are liver strain. Your side effects are smelling like a panda mint hybrid. Pick your poison or ointment. Relief from headaches is nice, but relief from legal migraines is even better. Our firm drafts cross-border prenups, navigates marriage registrations, and structures foreign direct investments so your Vietnamese ventures do not need a mental patch. Dầu gió optional. Alright, oil applied, contract signed, so let's figure out why bedtime in Vietnam is anywhere between midnight pho and the sunrise.
Walk in Saigon's main street, Nguyen Hue, at 11 p.m. and you'll see toddlers riding battery cars like mini Fast and Furious extras. Studies show roughly 40% of Vietnamese children and teens chronically lack sleep. The official narrative is the long hours of study, but we all know multi-generational homes share the blame. Grandparents enforce math drills, cousins hijack the TV, and bedtime is a flexible suggestion. Contrast that with American suburbia. Lights out at 8 p.m., white noise humming, and parents stalking sleep apps like Wall Street traders. Actually, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 9 to 11 hours of sleep for school kids, and parents guard that quota with noise machines and blackout curtains. Vietnamese parents own blackout curtains too, except they're used mostly for weekend karaoke acoustics. While one culture says rest equals discipline, the other says rest whenever karaoke stops. And that spins us right back to rooftop karaoke. Although you still may not be able to sleep, at least you know why.
Vietnamese family life can be part duty, love, and a 120 decibel chorus that rattles the ceiling fan. Sometimes suffocating, others heartwarming. But they paint a picture of Vietnamese life that you will not be able to find in a Lonely Planet guide.
So which rule shocked you the most? Were you team curfew at 30 or Team Menthol everything? Drop your answer and your own survival tips in the comments below. Hit like if you value your personal space, share if you've ever been hit with the foreigner wake-up call karaoke, and remember to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into Vietnam's beautiful chaos.
By the way, this is not my apartment. I am inside the Saigon Sofitel Plaza, just steps away from the US consulate here in District 1. Thank you very much to the Saigon Sofitel Plaza for giving us a great suite to shoot our video and showing us great hospitality. On behalf of Duong Global, my name is Ken Duong and this is
Olivia Richards.
So thank you for watching this video and we'll see you on the next one.